Okay, here we are, part 2 of our foldable video, fractions, decimals, and percents foldable. Okay, we're going to start off with a fractions and decimal part. Each part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the steps, and then I'm going to go over each example, maybe 1 or 2 or possibly 3 examples, depending on which problem it is. Okay, so I'm going to start with the top left one, fractions to decimals. Here's the steps. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, hopefully you guys are able to see that well. Okay, the steps to change a fraction to a decimal is you have to divide the numerator by the denominator. That just means the numerator's members on top, the denominator's on bottom. How I've taught it to you guys is cowboy and horse. The cowboy goes inside the house. The horse goes outside of the house. We're going to set it up. And here's our example problem right here. 1 out of 4. So this fraction, I need to make it into a decimal. So I'm going to put the cowboy inside, the horse outside, and I'm going to divide. So I have to think, how many times does 4 go into 1? Well, 0 times. 4 times 0 is 0. Well, because I need to make it a decimal, I need to figure out where the decimal is. And remember, there's always an invisible decimal hiding at the end. So I'm going to find it. I'm going to put it up. And since there's no other numbers, we know that there are invisible zeros that are hiding. So I'm going to keep going until I have at least two decimal places, or a 0 at the end. So I'm going to drop that first 0 down. I'm going to figure out 4 goes into 10 2 times, because 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. This is not 0 yet, so I have to make another invisible 0, drop it down. Now I have to figure out how many times 4 goes into 20. That's 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Now that's 0. So now I finally have my answer. 1 out of 4 is the same thing as 0.25. So 1 out of 4 is equal to 0.25. Remember we said that fractions, decimals, and percents are literally the same exact things. We just have to figure out what they look like, all right, and how they look different. So 1 out of 4 is the same thing as 0.25. So pause, rewind, go ahead and make sure you have that part. I'm going to move on to this part, the next part, percent to decimal. For a percent to decimal, here are the steps. It may seem like a lot, but it's really nice and easy. The steps are to first drop the percent symbol, find the invisible decimal. If it's hiding, it's usually hiding at the end. And then move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. All right, so this is actually nice and simple. Here's what it looks like. So let's say we have 45%. It doesn't want to be a percent anymore. It wants to be a decimal. So the first thing I want to do is I want to drop that percent. So if it's going to be 45, it's going to be 45. And because there's no decimal, it's always going to be hiding here at the end of the number. And it wants to get as far away from the decimal as it wants. So it's going to move 2 spaces to the left. All right. And so our decimal is going to be 0.45. So 45% is the same thing as 0.45. All right. We'll do one more example. So if I have 13%, first thing I want to do is I want to drop that decimal or that percent symbol, find that decimal. Where is it hiding? It's hiding here at the end. Then I want to move it 2 spaces to the left. Now I want to move it 2 spaces because in a percent it has 2 zeros. So I'm going to move it always 2 spaces. So I'm going to move it 1, 2. So now 13% is the same thing as 0.13. Now I'm going to show you guys another example. So 5%, same thing. I want to drop that percent. It's going to be 5. The decimal is hiding at the end. Now how many spaces do I want to move it? If you said 2, you're correct. It's always going to be 2 spaces because of 2 zeros in the percent. So I'm going to move it 1 and 2. So if I move it 2 spaces, but there's the missing number here. What is that missing number? If you said an invisible 0, you're correct. So this decimal is going to be 0.05. You see the difference? I'll show you guys one more. So if we have 6.75%, and there are percents like this, and I want to show you guys all of them. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop that decimal, or that percent symbol. So it's going to be 6.75. Now if you notice, what's the difference between this and all the other ones? If you said the decimal's not hiding, you're correct. The decimal's right here. It's not hiding at the end, it's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it 2 spaces to the left. 1, 2. Just like I did with all the other ones, because there are 2 zeros in a percent. So I'm going to move it 2 spaces, and there should be an extra 0 there. So my new number, it's going to be 0.0675. Pause it, rewind it, play it back a little bit. Take a look at these examples. These are all the examples that you guys will see in problems that you guys are going to take a look at for this unit, okay? Next one. Percent to fraction. Here are the steps. I put the steps down here instead of up here, I know. You're going to drop the percent symbol. You're going to put the number as a fraction over 100. Then you're going to simplify, if you can. All right. Again, nice and easy. Doesn't want to be a percent anymore, so we're going to drop it. So it's going to be 28. But remember, a percent is the same thing as a fraction. Remember. And so what it's going to do is going to go ahead and transform. So it's going to be 28. This is going to transform like a transformer into 100. 28 out of 100. But if you think, this can actually simplify even more, right? This can simplify by, if you're thinking 2, you're correct. So you can simplify it. But if I'm thinking the biggest number that it could be, I'm going to think 4. 4 is the largest number that you can simplify with. And you could do it with 2 and it'll get smaller, but you want to try to simplify to the smallest it could possibly be. So how many times is 4 going to 28? I'll give you guys a second to think. And if you want to pause it and think for yourself, and that's okay too, try to get the answer. So 4 goes into 28 7 times. 4 goes into 100. What is it? You guys got it. If you said 25, you're correct. So 7 out of 25. So 28 out of 100, 7 out of 25 are the same exact fractions. They're the same number, and these are the same as 28%. That's it. All right. We'll do one more example here. So if I have 35%, and I want to change it from a percent to a fraction. First I want to do, drop the fraction, put that percent number over 100, transfers into 100, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. So there's my fraction. If you're doing this on the test and you got this, you would get some points. But if you want to get all your points, you need to simplify. What number goes into 35 and 100? If you said 5, you're correct. 5 goes into 35 7 times. 5 goes into 100 20 times. So 7 out of 20. All right. So there's that. Make sure you have the steps written down. Make sure you pause. Make sure you have the examples written down because we will be turning this in. All right. So now that we're done with the left side, we're going to move over to the right side. Now we're going to do the top right, which says decimal into fraction. So in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to put the decimal in a place value chart. And I've made a place value chart right here. So a place value chart looks like this. If you have one, you want to look it up on the Math Manipulatives page, you can do that. But I have one right here. Ones, tenths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And I didn't write thousandths or hundredths, but I abbreviated them just so we can see. Okay, so we're going to put your number in a place value chart. And if you're already good in your brain with looking at a place value chart, even better. But if not, draw one out. It'll help you out. For this example, I want everybody to draw it out. And then number 2 is just finding the fraction. So we're going to have 3 examples that we're going to do. So here's the first one, 0.7. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at where my decimal is. Make sure I have it here. So here's where the decimal is. On the left of the decimal is a 0. On the right of the decimal is a 7. So what I want to do is I want to figure out what place is this last number in. So this last number right here is in the tenths place. So it's going to be, there's no whole numbers, there's a 0, so I don't need to do that. So it's going to be in the tenths place, and the tenths place it's out of, if you guessed it, you said 10, you're correct. So then the hundredths, if something lands in the hundredths place, it's going to be out of 100. If something lands in the thousands place, it's going to be out of 1,000. All right? So this decimal here is 0.7 or 7/10. It's going to be 7 out of 10 because it's in the tenths place. All right? Now, if you want to pause and try to do the next 2 by yourself, do so. If not, let's keep going. 0.85. So first thing I want to put my decimal. On the left of my decimal, I have a 0. On the right of my decimal, I have 8 and 5. Okay, well, I have to look at the last digit. The last digit is a 5, and it's in the hundredths place. So that means this is going to be out of 100 because it's in the hundredths place. And then what number is going to go on top? If you said 85, that's right. So everything out after the decimal, it's going to be 85 out of 100. All right. And the last one right here, I didn't make enough room. Make sure you have enough room. First thing I want to do is place the decimal. Then I want to look to the left. Okay, well, there's a 1 on the left of the decimal and a 4 on the right of a decimal. So what that means, if you have a number on the left of the decimal, like this here, that means that's going to be your whole number. So I'm going to have 1 as my whole number, and then this is going to be my fraction. What place is it in? If you said tenths place, you're correct, so it's going to be out of 10, and it's going to be 4 out of 10. And we can always simplify this, right? We can simplify this one and this one. So let's go ahead and do so right now. So 4 out of 10. What number goes out of 4 out of, what number goes into 4 and 10? If you said 2, you're correct. All right, so 1 whole, 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. Sorry if my hand's in the way, left-handed problems. All right, so there's that. That's the simplest form that we can get. So remember, 1.4 is the same thing as 1 and 4 out of 10, and it's the same thing as 1 and 2 out of 5. Now, for fun, let's go ahead and do 85 out of 100. What number goes into 85 and 100? If you said 5, you're correct. 5 goes into 85. I'm counting with my fingers too right now. I know that 5 goes into 100 20 times. 5 goes into 85 17 times. All right, so there we go. Biggest thing with this one is make sure you put it into a place value chart. And once you have it in a place value chart, everything is ready to go from there. All right, decimal to percent, which is the next one, decimal to percent. Now I want to go opposite. So I have a decimal. So see how in this one we wanted to go from a percent to a decimal. Now we want to go from a decimal to a percent. So we're going to do the opposite. Now we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and then we're going to add the percent symbol. So we have our decimal, 0.68. What I want to do now is I want to move it 2 spaces to the right, and the reason I'm going to the right is because the symbol is on the right. So I want to move it the same way where the symbol is going to be. So if the symbol is always going to be at the end, it's going to move 1, 2. So that's where my new decimal is going to be. It's going to be 0.68, or it's going to move over. Now it's going to be just 68, and if it's at the end, you can hide it, and we're going to add the decimal or the percent symbol. So 0.68 is the same thing as 68%. Now we're going to do the next one, 0.3. The steps say move the decimal 2 places to the right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make up my own rule. I'm going to take the decimal and I'm going to move it 1, 2 spaces. So here's where my decimal is. So then what's missing here then if I don't have a number? Exactly, if you said an invisible 0, you're correct. So 0.3 is going to be the same thing as 30%. Okay, now we're going to do one more. Now, 6.257. I know it's a weird number, but again, the same rules apply. We're going to follow these same steps right here. So the same step is it wants to be a percent. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. We're going to go 1, 2. That's where the new place value is going to be. So this percent is going to be 625.7%. It's a big percent, but again, same rules apply. That's what we're going to do. All right. Make sure you have all your notes. Make sure you have those. If you want to make your own example and you practice it, you have room, you can put it there. All right, next one, the last one. A fraction to a percent. Here's the steps. First, what we're going to do is we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So we're going to divide horse, cowboy. Then we should have a decimal. Once we have a decimal, we're going to move the decimal in your answer 2 places to the right. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. So in this example, we have cowboy, horse. We're going to go ahead and set it up. Cowboy goes inside, horse goes outside. How many times is 5 going to 2? 0 times is too big. 5 times 0 is 0. 2. Decimal. There's no number, so I'm going to put the decimal up. Add an invisible 0 so that I got to keep going. 5 goes into 20 how many times? If you said 4, you're correct. 5 times 4 is 20. So there's my number. But remember, I want to turn a fraction into a percent. This is just a decimal. So I have to take this answer, 0.4, and turn it into a percent. Okay, so decimal to percent. So same thing that we did right here. We have our decimal. We're going to move it 2 places to the right and then add the percent symbol. Okay, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the right, just like we did in the last problem. Add an invisible 0. So it's going to be 40%. So if you want to add, as the last note, add the percent symbol. Okay, now that we have all of our notes down, you need to make sure you go back, make sure you have everything, and the last thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you have everything there. You're going to take a screenshot of your work like this to show that you've done everything, and once you have a nice screenshot of it, you're going to upload it to Google Classroom. Now if you want to take the picture on your phone, fine. If you want to take it on your camera on your Chromebook, that's also fine. But as long as I see that you have your work done, that's how you'll get your credit for today. All right, thanks guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, tell me your favorite type of fraction, decimal or percent. Make sure to hit that notification bell for the next updates. All right, bye guys.